You ever glance at a map that's just covered in squiggly lines and symbols and think, what am I even looking at? Well, today, we're going to crack the code on one of the most powerful tools out there for understanding the world around you, the topographical map. Let's jump right in. And yeah, I get it. At first glance, they absolutely can look like a secret code. This dense web of lines, numbers, and colors, it can feel a little intimidating, like you need some special degree to figure it out. But I promise you, it's way easier than it looks.
So, here's the deal. What if you could get the basics down in just the next few minutes? We're about to go on a quick virtual expedition to give you the key skills to read pretty much any topo map. Seriously, by the end of this, you'll be seeing mountains, valleys, and whole towns hidden in those lines.
Okay, so first stop on our expedition, the basics. What exactly are we looking at here? Because these aren't your average road maps. They're more like incredibly detailed portraits of the land itself. A topographical map, or a topo sheet as you'll hear it called, is basically a large-scale map that zooms way in on a small piece of the world. The Survey of India makes these to show everything, and I mean everything, from the shape of mountains and rivers to individual roads and buildings. Think of it like a bird's-eye view but with X-ray vision that lets you see the actual terrain. Right, every explorer needs a way to pinpoint their location. On a topo map, your main tool for that isn't just a compass, it's the grid system. This grid is the foundation for finding anything and everything on the map.
So instead of getting tangled up in latitude and longitude, topo maps use this simple red grid. It's called an arbitrary grid, just because it's a unique overlay made for this type of map to make local navigation way easier. The vertical lines, those are your Eastings, because their numbers get bigger as you move east or to the right. The horizontal lines are the Northings. Their values go up as you move north. Simple, right? The whole system kicks off from the bottom left corner.
Now, this is probably the most important part. How do you actually name a location? There's a golden rule, and it's super simple. Eastings first, then Northings. A really easy way to remember this is the phrase, along the corridor, then up the stairs. You always go across first, then you go up. Trust me, getting this right prevents almost all of the common mistakes. And let's talk scale for a second. Every single one of those red squares you see on the map, that's not just a tiny box. It represents 1 full square kilometer of actual ground. That level of detail is what makes these maps so incredibly useful. Okay, so we know how to find stuff on the flat grid, but here's where the real magic of a topo map comes in, its ability to show you elevation. The next tool in our kit, contours, is basically like putting on a pair of 3D glasses for the landscape. You see all those brown squiggly lines all over the map? Those are called contours. Every single point along one of those lines is at the exact same height. You can imagine slicing a mountain into horizontal layers, like a birthday cake. A contour line is just the edge of one of those layers. The vertical distance between each of these lines is called the contour interval, or CI. On most of these maps, it's 20 meters. So what that means is every time you cross one of those brown lines, you've just climbed, or descended, 20 meters in elevation. And the spacing of these lines tells you the story of the terrain. When the lines are packed really tight, it means the elevation is changing super fast over a short distance. That's a steep slope, like a cliff. But when they're spread way out, the elevation change is slow and gradual. That's a gentle slope. And the shapes these contours make aren't random at all. They directly show you what kind of landform you're looking at. See a bunch of circles inside of each other? That's a conical hill. Long, stretched-out oval shapes? That's a ridge. And if you see a classic V shape, that's a valley. And the V always points uphill, towards the source of the water. Besides the contours, you'll also spot a couple of other height markers. You might see BM with a number. That's a benchmark, and it's the precise elevation of a permanent object. Or you might just see a little dot with a number. That's a spot height, telling you the exact height of that one specific point. So, now we can actually see the shape of the land in 3D. Pretty cool, right? Next up on our little expedition, let's start scouting for signs of life. We're going to look for the marks that nature leaves behind, and the marks that people do. On a topo map, you're really looking for 2 main types of patterns. Human patterns, called settlements, are almost always shown as little red squares. These are the places people live. And then you've got the natural patterns, like the network of rivers and streams, which we call drainage. You know, even the way those little red squares are arranged tells you a story. Are they all bunched up together? That's a compact settlement, which you usually find on a fertile plain where resources are easy to get. Are they spread way apart? That's a scattered pattern, pretty common in hilly or forested areas. Or are they all in a neat line? That's a linear settlement, probably built right along a road or a river. Rivers do the same thing. They form distinct patterns that give you clues about the landscape. The most common one by far is called dendritic, and it looks just like a tree with its branches. But if you see streams flowing outwards from a single high point, kind of like the spokes on a bicycle wheel, that's a radial pattern. It's a huge clue that you're looking at something like a volcano or a dome-shaped hill. Okay, so we've learned the language of the map. We've got the grid, the contours, the symbols. Now it's time for the fun part, putting it all together and actually reading the story the landscape is telling us. You know, a really simple way to interpret any topo sheet is to just use a checklist. Ask yourself these questions. What are the main landforms here? What's the river system look like? Is there any vegetation, like forests? How are people getting around? And finally, where and how are people living? Answering these helps you build a complete picture from all the little details on the map. And just like that, our virtual expedition is over. Mission complete. You now have the basic toolkit to pick up any topographical map and start decoding what you see. So let's do a super quick rapid-fire recap of the most important points. 1. Topo maps are detailed snapshots. 2. For grid references, it is always Eastings first, then Northings. 3. For terrain, close contours means steep slopes. 4. For people, red squares are settlements. And 5. For rivers, that tree-like pattern is called dendritic. Got it? And I'll leave you with this one last piece of advice, a real pro tip for any map reader. The map gives you the facts. Trust what it shows you. Describe exactly what you can see, the closely spaced contours, the linear settlement. Don't start guessing or assuming things. Your real power as an explorer comes from accurately reading the story that is already written right there on the page. Now go find a map and see what you can discover.